Listen, lately we've had a lot of fights that just get me out of bed. And this is one of those fights. We have England's Lerone Murphy, the Miracle, taking on my guy. He's the Henri Richard of MMA, Douglas D. Silva Andrade. And while he might not be like his big brother, Maurice, and I'm talking about Vitor Belfort, this pocket rocket can throw down at 145 pounds. Douglas Silva de Andrade is one of the most exciting guys that you can find in this division. Again, that happens to look like Vitor Belfort, but he has so many wins by knockout. Yes, a lot of them were on the regional scene against less than stellar competition, but to have 19 pro knockouts is amazing. And if you look at his run in the UFC, he has some wins over good competition. Bantamweight GOAT, Renan Barão, he has a win over him. Now, maybe that was the see you later Barão loss that sent him out of the UFC. And maybe Douglas just decided, hey, that was it for me. But he's back in another fight. That one was in late 2019. Also has a win over Chito Vera back in 2018. And when it's come to some of the bigger names, and if you want to play MMA math, he has a loss to Zubair Tukhugov from back in 2014. That was D. Silva's UFC debut. He has lost to Rob Font by finish and a loss by finish to Piotr Jan. But stuff like that's going to happen. The only trouble is my guy D. Silva, 35 and a half years young, taking on Lerone Murphy, a guy that can really do just about anything in a cage. And this was a guy that was a relative unknown to a lot of MMA fans coming into his debut against Zubair Tukhugov. And if you go back and watch that fight, Lerone Murphy put on a great performance. I know there were a lot of people that fell on either side of the scoring bracket. It ended up a draw, but Lerone Murphy fought a great fight. And then a second time out, taking on Ricardo Ramos. He looked amazing, picked up a finish win there. He was a decent underdog in that one. So it's kind of weird for me. You know, you have those two fights. You get Tukhugov, which it's a tough litmus test. I mean, Tukhugov has been off for a really long time. Then you take on a really good prospect in Ricardo Ramos. So now you take on Douglas Silva de Andrade. It's kind of a weird spot seating-wise, but it makes for a great fight.
It really does, and I do agree with you. Personally, for Lerone Murphy, this feels like a bit of a step back in competition for him, because where I hold Ricardo Ramos compared to D. Silva at this stage of his career, and I do think we do have to kind of look at all of this in perspective, because Andrade has good wins. You go back and you look at the Marlon Vera win, and you're like, damn, he beat Marlon Vera. That was a very green Chito Vera in his career. That was before a lot of people were on the train. I've been the conductor of that train for a long time, and I was sad when he lost that fight, I'm not going to lie. But that was a great example of what Douglas de Silva de Andrade does well. He'll get on the inside, he's got great power, and really, if you look at him from really far away, maybe with sunglasses on, at night, he looks a little bit like John Lineker when he does fight. He's got that brawling style, and he has a very physical style to fighting. I always bring up Alexander Rakic and talk about this, how Andrade does have a certain athleticism to the way that he fights, where it's not just about the punches and the kicks. There's a certain physicality that comes along with him, and it's something that is sort of uncommon in MMA. The weird thing for Andrade, though, and I do think this is the game plan for Murphy in this fight, he's terrible fighting off of his back. On the feet, he's got power, he's got combinations. He can give you a lot of problems if you are standing and striking with him. The great news, though, is that if you can do what Piotr Jan did, Jan took him down, and it wasn't like, oh, wow, Jan's got this ungodly ground game. Like, Jan's good on the ground. He's a great grappler. He's got phenomenal takedown defense. But we all know Piotr Jan for being arguably the best boxer in MMA. He's just great defensively. He can download his opponent's game plan. Then he attacks. He took down Andrade, got him in crucifix, and just elbowed him a trillion times in that fight. And I do really think it matters how you lose sometimes. I always think back at Justin Gaethje when he lost Eddie Alvarez. How did he lose to Eddie Alvarez? He got hit with a bunch of body shots. He got tired, and then that opened up the knee. How did he lose to Dustin Poirier? Well, he didn't get hit with body shots. He got hit with a counter shot. Like, some fighters lose in a similar way all the time, whereas other fighters, it doesn't really matter. Just their opponent's better than them on a certain day. With Andrade, I do think that is the game plan for beating him. People have beat him other ways, but when you just see the ease in which Jan had, especially in the grappling of their fight, I think that sets up for what Murphy can do just really tremendously. Murphy's got phenomenal top pressure, really nice ground and pound. I mean, geez, we saw that in the Ramos fight. I think if he just follows a similar game plan from his last one and brings it into this fight against Andrade, you're going to have tons of success. And especially Andrade at 35 years old, he's been looking old lately. With all this time off, you just kind of have to wonder when Father Time's coming to tap old D. Silva on the shoulder.
And I mean, I wish he was still a 35er, but he's up at 45 now. So that's the thing. He was, a decent size at bantamweight. Now at featherweight, you're going to be quite undersized, especially against a guy like Lerone Murphy that fights long, fights to his strengths. He can really strike from either side. His wrestling's really good. there's not a lot of holes in Lerone Murphy's game. Again, no losses, the one draw to Zubair Tukhugov. If we have a look at the Topology picks, 539 of them, 84% Murphy, 63% by knockout. If we have a look at the odds, Murphy went from a minus 225 at open to a minus 281. If we have a look at D Silva, plus 190 to a plus 225. Again, Matt, it's always, difficult. You put yourself in our position, and the same thing, the MMA JA hat on, you try and look at it for what it's worth. But I always like a D Silva fight. I always get up for Douglas Silva de Andrade's fights. But on the same token, Lerone Murphy is a lot of fun to watch. And again, you talk ceiling at this point in their career. Not that that affects the fight itself, but if you're thinking, putting a matchmaker's cap on, what's a fight that I can get Lerone Murphy in to really win a lot of fans over, to really seed him well moving forward? Well, I would have thought the Ramos fight, but apparently not.
Come Swanson.
Maybe a fight against Douglas Silva de Andrade is the one. And for a lot of the reasons there, as well as the fighting acumen and the skills that Lerone Murphy possesses, I think that, again, if he's able to strike from distance early and push D Silva back against the cage, take him down, it's going to be rinse and repeat for Lerone Murphy. And he should be able to walk away with a win here. You always have to worry about the power from Douglas Silva de Andrade, though, so we'll see what happens. But I'm really looking forward to this one, going with Murphy.
So this fight reminds me a lot of when Jamal Hill fought Ovince St. Preux. We have the more developed, kind of just more mainstay of the division. Not that D Silva's as big of a name as OSP was, but it just kind of sets up the prospect to get a really impressive win. And that's what this fight feels like. Lerone Murphy should be able to win this fight no matter where it takes place. Again, the power of Andrade worries me a little bit, but as long as he can stay away from those big power shots, he should be able to get a fairly easy win, and a highlight reel one at that.
Matt, really looking forward to this fight. We both have England's Lerone Murphy to pick up the win, and overall a great card and a great main card. So keep it locked in here with Fight Night Picks, and as we always say, let's get into it.